Start. Hey guys, Cologne here, back again with my good friend Mark. How you doing
Hello.
today, Mark?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Today we're going to be going over initiative in Mordhau. Arguably the most important topic. Very high skill cap. Yeah, so I guess we can just dive right into it. The first thing we're going to do is explain what is initiative, and the easiest definition for initiative is who has the offensive control of the fight.
Yeah. So generally, you always want initiative, because you want to be in control. You want to have the ability to attack your opponent while aren't really doing anything. Doesn't always follow these rules, and it doesn't mean to just keep inputting and uh, keep attacking. But you're always trying to get initiative in the fight. Yeah, and that's pretty much all we really need to talk about on a very abstract level of what initiative is. I
Yep.
think.
So we're going to also try to differentiate the difference between having clear initiative versus sort of a unclear initiative. Now, just to start, clear initiative basically means that Mark has no, if I were to parry Mark right now, so if Mark gives me a repost,
Gives you a repost?
yeah, Mark has no ability to attack me while I'm reposting. That would be an example of clear initiative. So if Mark feeds me a repost and then tries to wind up to interrupt my repost, he'll get hit every time. It's a example of clear initiative. Mark has no ability to interrupt my attacks.
Yeah.
So there's also something that could be unclear initiative, which is the wording is a little misleading because I can have full initiative, but the reason it could be unclear initiative is if Mark were to gamble me, or if he were to try to footwork gamble around my swing. So an example of this would be if Mark were to give me a parry and I don't repost, but then I do a morph to him, and Mark, if he doesn't respect my morph, Mark can just kind of swing through my attack. So let's give an example of that. Like that's a good example. Now let's do the exact same thing. That would be a way to punish it. Is if someone's disrespecting your initiative, you would just want to kind of bring your attack into them and not bank on them respecting your attack. So if someone's gambling you, you just want to use your initiative into either an excel or in a drag.
Yeah, generally if you have someone who gambles a lot, maybe that's a new player, maybe they're just kind of brain dead, you just want to play safer and let them make mistakes and punish those mistakes. You're not trying to do anything fancy at that point.
Yeah.
We also wanted to mention, like, you're at a higher risk, just going off the whole gambling thing, you're at a higher risk of being gambled versus like a short weapon. So Cologne, just do like a drag on me right now. So I gambled Cologne there. I have a fast weapon, and there's even faster weapons than this Warhammer. But I moved away from his swing while, doing a very fast attack like a stab. And that's, it's not a good practice, but it's something that like players that maybe crutch on. Yeah, that can happen if you're not careful. So that just comes to paying attention to where your opponent is and like what their overall demeanor is and stuff like that.
Yeah, you should watch.
That's really.
You should watch the offensive video that me and Mark just did because it talks a lot about basically conditioning your opponents and making them start to respect your attacks. It also briefly touches on like how to beat newer players or players who gamble a lot. So check that video out before this, I'd say.
Cool. We also just wanted to mention that buffering is another huge aspect when it comes to gaining initiative or contesting initiative. And we talked about this a little bit in our other videos too, about what buffering is and a little bit how to use it. But we're gonna have a whole video, a separate video on buffering and how to use it effectively on it. But just to mention in this video, buffering is just contesting initiative with attacks, or at least the threat of attacks. So I don't know if you want to show an example or not, Clone.
Yeah, just do like a chamber buffer would be fine. If you were to.
Okay. So right now we're buffering attacks back and forth at each other. We're feigning out both so that we can read the attack that's incoming and also to threaten with an attack.
Right.
But you just have But while you're in like those buffer wars, it doesn't have to be, same attack. It can be morphs and stabs and overheads and whatever.
Why don't
But while
we,
you're in those,
sorry?
good.
No,
No, you're
my bad.
fine.
Um, why don't we give that example of like if me and Mark were to wind up at the same time at each other, this happens a lot in higher level duels and just gameplay in general, is me and Mark will just be sitting there fainting at each other. And the
Yeah.
reason that's happening is because it's unclear which one of us has the initiative. It's unclear if I can follow through and hit Mark or if he can follow through and hit me. So we're kind of just buffering at each
Opting
other.
out.
Yeah, we're fainting at each other, buffering each other to try to see who has the initiative. So why don't we give an example of that, Mark, where
Just
if
a little
one of
buffer war.
us, yeah, a little buffer war. So
Yep.
ready?
Yep.
Like right, that was a good example. Mark was able to take the initiative off of me, and I had to feint to parry out. So let's just do one
Yep.
more example. That was another example of Mark was able to take the initiative off me and get me to parry, which essentially means he has initiative and I don't. Okay.
Yeah, so the buffer actually serves multiple purposes, just real quick. One is so you can still have time to read the attack so you don't enter release. Because remember, once you enter release, you can't parry out of that. And your opponent might be able to hit you while you're in release. So one is to be able to continue reading. Another is to threaten with a feint. Your opponent might parry out, and then you can punish accordingly. And then last, you're also kind of pressuring your opponent to either feint or to either read the attack or follow through. They can't just feint and be confident they're not going to get hit.
Yeah.
They're also threatened and they feel like they can't go in for this crazy excel. Or they can, but they're also kind of gambling there because they're not respecting the universe where you can just follow through with your attack.
Right. That's exactly why initiative becomes this extremely high level topic, is because scenarios like this, buffering scenarios where initiative is unclear, the player who is more experienced and is higher level in reading and swing manip is usually going to be the player to take that initiative that's unclear. Okay.
Right. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's clear versus unclear initiative. The next thing we want to talk about, which we're just gonna, it's not a huge thing to discuss too much, but it's just about securing the first hit and why securing the first hit is actually kind of important. It's not a make or break thing, but you do have the advantage when you secure the first hit. So if I swing at Cologne right now, I already have a stam advantage because he had to parry, and it's his turn next. And I'm technically up on opportunities to hit my opponent. I'm one up on him. I have, if we counted every opportunity to hit our opponent, I'm one and he's zero. Which isn't like I said, it's not a huge deal, but you technically have an advantage, so you pretty much always want to try and get the first hit in a duel.
Yeah. Yep.
And that doesn't mean you always just run into a duel and swing when you think you can hit them. Sometimes it's a little more high level than that, and you come in with a feint because you think your opponent's going to go for the first hit. And your opponent notices that your hit would hit before his, so he has to either feint out or parry.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different mix-ups you can do with first hit contests, but we're just trying to mention that the first hit is important and you should try and go for it generally.
Yeah. So we're gonna give like a little mock engagement to a duel. So like we'll be standing here, me and Mark, we accept the duel, and then it's what we're showcasing in this drill is basically how we try to get the first hit. We try to look at the range between each other and who can close that distance with an attack quicker, or like what Mark was explaining, coming in feint because your opponent thinks he can get you, but he might need a feint to parry out. So we're just gonna do like a little mock engagement. So Mark, we'll just do to the first initiative and then we'll reset and then we'll do it a couple times. Okay?
Gotcha. Yep.
Like right there, that's an example of me taking the initiative, forcing Mark to parry. So I would be up in turns, and then like that's how the duel would play out. Okay, ready?
So there I got a little too greedy and tried to go for the first hit. Cologne was able to just stay out of range and then punish me with an attack.
Yep.
There,
Like,
I knew Cologne would recognize that my attack would hit him first, so I morphed my stab, and he parried during my transition, and I was able to hit him.
yeah. And a lot of it is baiting out your opponent's
Yeah.
first move. Like
Sometimes you'll want to move back.
you can see the difference between my footwork and Mark's footwork is Mark is almost trying to wait for me to come in and make a mistake and punish, and I'm kind of trying to force a play onto Mark. That's like you can just see by the way we're footworking to each other right now.
Do one more.
All right, last one.
Cool.
All right.
And be careful also when you're, in that buffer war too, because you don't just keep doing it until all your stam's gone.
Yeah.
Like Cologne recognized he did two, and I wasn't really biting, so he just sent one. It's kind of off topic, but whatever.
All right.
Cool. Next thing we want to talk about is the value of your turn or your initiative, and using it to its full potential rather than just wasting your turn. And this is actually a topic that one of our friends kind of helped us get deeper into, and talking about what's a good way to use your turn, what's not a good way, and we wanted to bring up some of those points. So generally, when you get initiative in a fight, a good position to be is somewhere like around here, where you're close to your opponent. Your attacks are much harder to read, and he either has to chamber or pretty much take 50-50s if your offense is good. So that's generally like you want to be somewhere like around this close to your opponent if you're gonna be offensive. Otherwise, you generally don't want to waste your turn. So say we're in this range. Give me your riposte, Cologne. And don't fully run in. Give me your riposte. And we're at this range. I take a riposte. Go ahead. And I just run in. Look where I'm ending my turn, and look where Cologne is. I started my swing out here at this range, and this or somewhere like around here maybe.
Yeah.
Which isn't terrible, but it's not too hard for Cologne to read. He doesn't have to. He probably won't have to chamber if it's a riposte. And I'm running in with a pretty easy to read attack, and I'm ending my turn right around here. And this is a very bad position. Yeah, not only in your face hug, but my camera's also looking this way. It's just a really bad position if you're on defense. So
That's,
generally, you wanna. Sorry, go ahead, Clone.
that's just to add to what Mark is saying is essentially Mark is using his initiative, right? Mark is using his initiative, and it's almost as if his initiative is worth 75%. And if when Mark lands here and now I have initiative, it's almost like my initiative is worth 100%. Just because it's easier for me to read Mark running towards me, swinging, than it is for Mark to read me already in his face.
Right.
So it's like the percentages is just me trying to showcase how
Much value.
yeah, how much there is in between attacks. Like obviously Mark can hit me with something running in from this range. It's just easier for me to read Mark coming in from the neutral range than it would be for me to read him, straight in front of me.
Right. Yeah, so a good habit we think that you guys should practice is maintaining distance until your opponent makes a mistake. So generally staying around this range while you're in these like morph/riposte duels. Trying to stay in this range, and if your opponent comes in with an attack, go ahead, Clone, like run in with an attack. From this range, look, this position's great. You can hit him with a really hard excel, or you can drag it out. It all depends on how the duel's going, but or you can do a crazy mix-up in their face. Just be careful not to get kicked if you don't riposte. But what we're saying is, if your opponent runs in like that, if he closes the gap and you take initiative back, now it's time to pull something offensive. Now it's time to use your initiative to its full advantage and, try and get a good hit on your opponent.
Yeah.
The reason why it's okay not to go for crazy offensive plays from this distance is because even though you're not using your offense to its full potential, you're not giving up any defense. You're holding your
neutral,
zone.
yeah.
You're making sure your opponent can't get to you, pretty much.
It's like from that position, Mark has every option he can choose on defense versus when he's right here, Mark doesn't. Mark has a lot more limited options on how he would defend my initiative.
Right.
So,
So
why don't we give an example of like if I were to run in at Mark and land, this is the terminology I would like to use is like if I was to run in at Mark and use my initiative to attack him and I were to land right in his face. So Mark parries
mhm.
me and I land right in his face, that would be bad, right? So what we want to showcase for how to use your initiative if you want to, press the attack and press on offense is to be very aware of where you're landing after your attack is. So not only do you have to work around how Mark is going to be defending and how you want to, if you want to morph, stab, if you want to drag, if you want to excel, you need to be planning out or being aware of where you're going to land. So if I were to attack Mark right now, a bad example of a landing would be landing right in his face. A good example would be if I were to attack Mark and move out. So as you can see, I'm kind of attacking Mark and moving with my attack out away from Mark.
Yeah. And then also like say if I think that's a good example. Like if you excel, if you like move with it. Sorry, I just missed. But if you move, like kind of just keep using your movement and your momentum to keep going that way, and also you get don't forget you get knockback on parry. So you get a little bit of knockback too, and you're moving in that direction already. So you get a nice. You kind of get back to your defensive position if
Hmm.
you do it properly. So that's a good example if you go in for like an excel. If you say you drag, you can move away as you drag. So you can like kind of S key as you drag,
Yep.
and then you get back to that position.
Yeah. And you'll see a lot of people drag like this and they'll S key out, or a lot of people will use their footwork and drag like with their attack and move out like that. So yeah, I think that
Yeah.
the whole reason we're showcasing this again, just to reiterate, is you don't want to be using your offense and taking away from your defense. Like you don't want to be using your offensive capabilities and then, kind of like screwing over your defense by landing in your opponent's face. And when we
Yeah.
do some duels at the end, like what we'll do, me and Mark will just do some normal duels with each other at the end. Really notice on where me and Mark are positioning ourselves, and notice how me and Mark don't just in the beginning of the duel run up to each other and
You
stay in
just
face hug the whole
hold.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, it's another good thing to note that this kind of practice where you're keeping a good distance on your opponent, it does apply to team play, but it's in a different dynamic. It's very situational. So just remember that we're mostly talking about dueling mechanics because that's like what we think is the best way to start learning the game. But try to understand that when you start learning team play, or if you already have, this will be a little different, and your movement and stuff shouldn't always match what we're talking about in team play. And we're gonna have a separate series on team play.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Good to know.
just be aware of that. That's all the notes actually we have down for initiative. Is there anything else? Oh yeah, victory, we did it. Is there anything else that you think we can talk about? Maybe if we think of anything else, we can cut it in at the end.
Um, I mean, I think we pretty accurately covered initiative as a whole and as a topic. It's I just on some side notes about initiative is I think I said this before in the earlier in the video is that it is something that is always changing, like the meta of initiative and how people can utilize initiative and the topic and the theory of initiative to the fullest extent or like extremely high levels. Like what I'm trying to say is someone who just watches this video right now will have a good understanding of now they now know what initiative is versus someone like Mark or I who fully understand initiative and when you can bend the rules and when you can apply more pressure with initiative. Like all I'm saying is that there's so much more to learn about the topic, and it's going to take is a lot of experience. The more you play the game, the more you'll understand weaponing timings, the more you'll understand people's patterns, the more you'll understand when you can get that extra attack in or when you can buffer each other. So it's a very simple topic on the surface, but it's like it goes so in depth and it has such a high skill cap or skill ceiling that you should just keep that in mind. Yeah. Anything to add to that?
Oh, sorry, my mic is muted. No, I think you stated everything perfectly. I do have an idea for what we can do right now too.
Okay, let's do it.
Remember that viewer that asked about like how to deal with being zoned? I think this does kind of involve initiative, being zoned from like a spear, like a light spear, say, or light halberd,
Okay.
and like how to deal with that. I don't know. If you want to showcase it, I don't know if you want to try and zone me with like a spear or something. We could showcase
I'll
that.
do it right now.
It's up to you. I think it's related because basically what they're doing is they're like making your initiative or your turn on offense. They're like negating it completely by zoning you out if you don't know what you're doing.
Okay.
And I'm not 100% sure exactly how to explain it, but I think after like a duel or two, I'll kind of note some of the things that I
So
do
you
to
just
deal
want
with
me to
that.
kite you around, basically.
Just zone me, like keep a distance on me, and
Okay.
try and steal back turns if you can, or
Alright.
steal initiative if you can.
Sounds
It
good.
probably would be better if you go light, because I think that's what he was asking about. But we can do this first.
Alright, I'll go light right now.
Okay.
So to address the viewer... Alright, I'm over here.
Yeah, just try and zone me. So I think when I'm dealing with someone who's zoning a lot, I'm buffering and I'm chambering a lot. The reason the buffers are good is because if I don't feel like I'm in range, I can feint out, and if he's coming at me with attack too, I can also just feint. But mainly because I don't want to miss an attack, so I can feint out of my attack while still kind of being threatening. And also I'm chambering a lot because I don't want to get knocked back when he hits me, because he could just keep moving back and just stealing the initiative from me. Like say I'm here, say this is where we landed after Cologne parried, like right here. Cologne parried and we landed here. Or say I missed and we landed here. It doesn't matter. Either way, I'm in a really like he can just stab feint from there, and I can't do anything. I'm not threatening at all. So he basically has full control over this fight.
Yeah.
So at this point, my goal is to get close in distance while not getting kicked. Watching out for the kick, buffer, chamber, close the distance, and use my initiative properly. So it does take some practice. That's what I do. I don't know if you have any tips on that, Cologne.
No, I think you're making a great point, is notice how Mark's always... I don't know, I'm getting these really bad frame stutters. Notice how Mark's chambering me and closing that gap. If Mark were to not chamber me, and he were to just try to be parrying me...
Yeah, let's try that.
Yeah, if Mark were to not chamber me, like, look how this fight would go. Like, I can just keep Mark at a distance. Even if he does parry me, I'm so far away from him that it's...
Don't even stab feint. Don't even stab feint. Let's just say the person's just always stabbing.
Okay.
That knockback adds a lot of... I'm literally just holding W key right now, for the most part.
Right. It's like, this is a great example of Mark can't really get to me without threatening that chamber.
Yeah, so when I want to close the gap, I always chamber so I don't get knocked back. And from there, I have a lot of options, so let's do this again. I can chamber Morph Excel. Go ahead.
And to add on to what Mark's saying is, when Mark closes that gap with me, I no longer have the advantage or the ability to just keep my distance.
Run away.
If Mark gets face hug with me, say we start the fight from right here, just W key and attack me and buffer me the whole time, Mark, okay?
Attack or buffer?
Just duel me like you would normally.
Oh, okay.
Like, if Mark is constantly buffering me and chambering me, I can't even get away from Mark. I can't just S-key out my way. Versus if he's trying to parry, I can threaten with stab feints. I can use knockback to keep him at bay, that kind of thing.
Yep. Cool.
All right.
Did you want to do some duels at the
Yeah,
end,
we'll
or?
just do a couple duels, and then that'll be the video.
Talk a little bit how we're using our initiative and stuff.
Yep.
Oh, you're S10. Yeah, there's not too much to talk about. It's like, this is all, like, you guys don't have to be like, eventually you're going to get to a point where you're not thinking about these things, you're just doing them.
Yeah.
And we still make mistakes with it. Like, you know, a lot of the stuff we just talked about, we didn't follow that to the T. But it just comes with experience.
I'm pissed.
This is actually just we're just exposing Cologne on his own channel. All those videos, those pop-offs you saw, yeah,
Fake.
this is where it all.
They're setups.
Cool.
Just do like one more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come here, bitch.
Gamble footwork.
Redeemed.
Gamble footwork.
Cool. Thanks for watching, guys. Yeah, if you guys have any more questions, just ask them in the comments, and we'll try and address them in the future videos. And Clone, maybe like if we need to, we can even make small videos on like how to deal with this or what to do if your opponent's doing that.
Yeah,
I
100%.
don't know.
I also noticed a comment that said he liked the drills that we were giving, so
Oh yeah.
look out for a video where we're gonna just kind of pile in a bunch
Talk
of different
about
drills
drills.
that you can do, and just showcase some drills that you and a buddy can practice with each other. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. You know, like Mark said, comment and then ask your questions away. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. Later, boys.
See you guys. I think I just fucked the video, right?